He wasn't running. He wasn't hiding. He was just the only black kid in the hallway. "Stop right there," the security officer yelled. Before 14-year-old Isaiah could blink, he was face down, knees in his back, handcuffs cutting his skin. "You matched the report. Tall, dark hoodie, possible theft." "I was going to math class," he whispered. They didn't hear him. They were too busy dragging him through the school in front of cameras. His mother wasn't even called, because they didn't think she needed to know. "Subscribe and tell us where you're watching us from." Isaiah Bell was the only black student in the advanced STEM program at Hamilton Prep, a private academy in Fairfax, Virginia. His mother had worked 2 jobs for 6 years just to get him through the door. That morning, he was late to first period by 3 minutes. 3 minutes too late. He stepped into the hall as the final bell rang. No one else was around. Just silence, white walls, and a closed locker door he never touched. He adjusted his backpack. His math teacher was only a few doors away. That's when he heard it. "Hey, you. Stop right there." Isaiah turned. 2 school security officers, both white, were walking fast toward him. One had already unclipped the radio from his belt. "I didn't do anything," Isaiah said quickly, his voice calm but shaking. "What's in the bag?" "Just books." They didn't ask to see them. They didn't ask his name. They didn't ask why he was there. They threw him against the wall. His cheek hit the cold tile. One officer twisted his arms behind him, hard, fast, too hard for a child. "You match the description." "Of what?" No answer. Isaiah was on the floor, cuffed, knees pressed into his back. Other students started gathering at the hallway edges, filming, whispering. "That's Isaiah. He's in my robotics class." "What did he do?" "Nothing. I think he was just walking." The assistant principal arrived. Not to stop them, to supervise. "It's probably about that stolen laptop from the media lab," she said, without looking at Isaiah. "He's not even in that building," said a student nearby. "You don't know what these kids get up to," the principal replied. Isaiah couldn't move. He couldn't speak. He was choking on his own breath. The cuffs cut his wrists. One officer searched his bag. Textbooks, graphing calculator, a peanut butter sandwich. No laptop, no weapon, no contraband. Still, they dragged him to the office. They sat him in a chair, still cuffed. No one called his mother. No one read him his rights. No one apologized. Across the city, Melanie Bell, a nurse on double shift, was replacing in 4 for a cancer patient. Her phone buzzed, but she didn't see the call. It was from a Fairfax juvenile intake center. Isaiah wasn't at school anymore. He was already listed as a juvenile suspect in custody, and no one knew what was coming next. Melanie Bell didn't check her phone until 10:22 a.m. She had 12 missed calls from an unknown number and 1 from Hamilton Prep. When she heard the voicemail, her heart dropped. "Mrs. Bell, this is Officer Carver from Fairfax Juvenile Processing. Your son Isaiah was brought in this morning regarding a school incident. Please contact us immediately." She dropped everything, left mid-shift, didn't even change out of her scrubs. By the time she reached the juvenile center, her badge was still clipped to her collar and her hands were shaking. "I'm here for my son, Isaiah Bell. He's 14. Where is he?" The woman at the front desk barely looked up. "He's in processing." "Processing for what?" "You'll have to wait, ma'am." Melanie's voice rose. "I wasn't called. I wasn't informed. He's a minor. Where's my child?" A guard appeared from the back. "Ma'am, calm down. You need to sit." Melanie didn't move. "I want to speak to whoever put their hands on my son. Now." A door buzzed open. Out stepped a detective in plain clothes. Early 50s, tired eyes, neutral tone. "Mrs. Bell? I'm Detective Harlan. Please, follow me." She followed him down a hallway that smelled of bleach and regret. "Your son was detained by school security this morning after matching the description in an ongoing investigation." "What investigation?" "Theft. A laptop from a faculty office went missing yesterday. Witness described a tall black teen in a hoodie." Melanie froze. "That's it? A vague description? No face? No footage?" "Ma'am, I understand your concern. Do you? Do you know how many tall black kids wear hoodies?" The detective didn't respond. "Where is he now?" "He's in a holding room. I must inform you, per school administration, a report was filed. He's being processed as a juvenile suspect." Melanie's hands went numb. "You processed him without my consent? Without counsel? Without even confirming the accusation?" "School staff approved the detainment. They didn't report you as an emergency contact until after the report was submitted." "That's a lie," she snapped. "I filled out those forms myself." I'm sorry. We're just following protocol. They reached a door with a small, square window. Through it, Melanie saw her son. Isaiah sat in a corner. Put off. Wrists red. Knees pulled to his chest. A child surrounded by cold walls and silence. She banged on the glass. Baby, I'm here. He looked up. His eyes were dry, but broken. Melanie turned to Harlan. Let him out. Now. I'm afraid we can't. Not yet. The report's already been logged. He's entered into the system. You mean the system that ruins kids like mine before they even turn 16? He didn't answer. Isaiah was in. And getting him out would take more than a mother's fury. The next morning, Melanie stood in the front office of Hamilton Prep. She hadn't slept. Isaiah was released at midnight. No apology, no record cleared, no explanation. Only a paper stating, under review. Now she wanted answers. I need to speak with whoever signed off on my son's detainment. Her voice was sharp. The receptionist typed slowly, eyes low. Miss Chandler, the vice principal, can see you in 10. Melanie didn't sit. She stood, arms folded, chest heaving. When Chandler entered, she didn't offer a handshake. Mrs. Bell, I understand this has been a difficult experience. You had my son handcuffed and dragged from your halls. What part are you struggling to understand? Ma'am, campus security followed established protocols. A faculty member reported a theft. The suspect was described as tall, dark-skinned, wearing a hoodie. That describes half your basketball team. Chandler's tone didn't change. Your son matched the immediate profile and was seen near the locker hallway alone. At 8:02 a.m., when classes had already started. My son was late. That's all. We have to take all reports seriously. Did anyone check the cameras? We're reviewing footage now. So you didn't check before accusing him, before detaining him, before traumatizing him. Chandler paused. We believed swift action was necessary to protect school property. School property? He's a child. Your student. And the investigation is still ongoing, Chandler added. Until it's resolved, Isaiah is suspended. Melanie's mouth opened, then closed. You're suspending him. For what? For failure to comply with school safety officers. Melanie stepped closer. You assaulted him. Now you're punishing him for surviving it? Chandler shifted slightly, her facade cracking for half a second. Mrs. Bell, I understand you're upset. But please, lower your voice. No, I will not lower anything. You didn't lower those handcuffs. You didn't lower the assumption that a black boy in a hallway was automatically a suspect. Chandler stayed silent. Let me be clear, Melanie said, her voice suddenly steady. You've suspended my son without evidence. You filed a juvenile report based on nothing. If you think I'm walking away from that, you've never met a nurse who's worked 20-hour shifts just to keep her kid in this building. You're welcome to appeal through the board, Chandler replied, now cold again. Oh, I will. But not just the board. Melanie turned to leave. I'm calling every parent I know. Every black parent with a child in this place. She walked out, her mind racing. Isaiah sat at home, still wearing the hoodie they said made him fit the description. He hadn't spoken since last night. He didn't need to. His silence said it all. 3 days after the incident, Melanie opened her mailbox to find an official letter from the county juvenile department. It wasn't a mistake. It was a court summons. Isaiah Bell was now listed as a defendant in a property theft investigation. Felony. Age, 14. She froze. No, no, no. She burst into Isaiah's room. He looked up from his desk, his eyes hollow. Did you take anything, Isaiah? Anything at all? Tell me the truth. I didn't take anything, he said quietly. I was late. That's all. Melanie sank onto the bed, the letter trembling in her hands. Later that afternoon, she stood in front of the school board's office. They made her wait 47 minutes. Finally, an older man in a navy tie stepped out. Mrs. Bell, I'm Mr. Kessler. I chair the disciplinary review committee. You're charging my son with a felony. Based on what? Kessler kept a tight-lipped smile. The school filed a statement after receiving a faculty theft report. The officer's notes confirmed a visual match. There is no footage, Melanie snapped. You don't even know what happened to the laptop. You're treating my child like a criminal because of how he looks. We follow legal protocol. Once the case was referred to juvenile court, it left our hands. Melanie leaned in. No, it left your hands the moment you refused to say you were wrong. That night, 2 plainclothes officers came to the Bell residence. Just here to talk, one said, flashing a badge. They asked Isaiah to describe what he was doing that morning. Asked what he was carrying. Asked if he'd ever been to the faculty wing before. Melanie watched the questions turn sharp. "Stop talking," she said. "He's done." One officer raised a brow. "Ma'am, you're interfering with a lawful inquiry." "No, I'm protecting my son from a system that's trying to destroy him before his life begins." The officers left, but not before handing her a second document. A notice of scheduled fingerprinting. "Standard process," one muttered. The door closed. Melanie locked it, then turned to Isaiah, who stood motionless, shoulders tense. "They don't think I'm a student anymore," he whispered. "What do you mean?" "I saw one of the officers at school. He was showing my photo to the janitor." Melanie couldn't breathe. Her son wasn't being investigated. He was being hunted. At midnight, she sat at her laptop. No lawyer would take the case for less than $7,000 up front. Pro bono lines had waitlists. She closed the screen, held her son, and whispered, "I'm not letting them win." But she didn't know how. Not yet. The court date was set for April 19th. Isaiah would stand before a juvenile judge for a crime no one had seen him commit. Melanie had 2 weeks. No lawyer. No money. No help. She went back to the school for camera footage. The front office denied her access. "That's confidential. He's my son. You'll need to go through legal counsel." Next, she went to the police station. "I'm requesting a copy of the incident report, body cam, and internal notes," she said. The officer behind the desk barely blinked. "That's not how this works." "Then explain how it does." "You'll need a lawyer to subpoena that. Or wait until court discovery." Melanie left empty-handed. At home, Isaiah had stopped sleeping, stopped eating, stopped speaking. He walked with his hoodie up even in the kitchen. His shoulders seemed smaller. His eyes no longer met hers. "You're not going to jail," she said one night. "Maybe I already am," he replied. The next day, Melanie visited the juvenile courthouse. The clerk gave her a number to call. That number gave her another. After 5 hours and 3 bus rides, she found herself in a narrow office with peeling walls. "You want public defense?" "Yes." "What's your income?" $58,000 a year. "That's above threshold." "I'm a nurse." "I'm alone." "He's 14. "Sorry, ma'am. We only help under $42,000. Melanie walked out, sat on the steps. She had no plan, no representation, no resources. And the system? It didn't care. 3 days later, a school email was leaked. An internal thread between staff. Subject: handling the Bell situation. One message read, "Best to remain firm. Admission of error sets a bad precedent." Another said, "Parent is becoming disruptive. Consider safety monitoring if she returns." Melanie stared at the screen. She wasn't seen as a mother. She was a threat. She printed every email, every timestamp, every signature. That night, Isaiah asked, "What happens if I get expelled?" "You won't. And if I do? Then we burn the whole place down on paper." He didn't smile, but his eyes moved. Just a little. Melanie closed the door to her room. She opened a folder labeled 2009. Inside were bar exam essays, old case studies, letters she never mailed. Melanie Bell had once been accepted to law school. She never got to attend, not after the pregnancy, not after Isaiah's father disappeared. But she still remembered the law, the language, the rules. She opened a blank document, typed the first sentence. Notice of civil liability and denial of due process. Bell versus Hamilton Preparatory Academy. They thought she was just a nurse. They were about to learn otherwise. Melanie didn't sleep that night. She read. She wrote. She built a legal foundation with nothing but memory, fury, and a second-hand laptop. By sunrise, she had 5 pages. Timeline of detainment. Witness statements from students. Email thread between staff. Breakdown of school policy on minor discipline. And a legal notice of intent to sue. At 8:45 a.m., she returned to Hamilton Prep, not as a mother, but as legal threat. She handed an envelope to the front desk. "This is a formal letter of liability. I expect a response within 48 hours. The receptionist blinked. I can give this to Ms. Chandler." "Do that. And give it to the school's council, too. You'll find a CC to the State Board of Education." Before she left, Melanie turned to the office cameras and looked directly at them. That afternoon, she filed 3 copies of her letter at the county civil court window. "You an attorney?" asked the clerk. "No. This is solid work." "You sure you're not?" Melanie just smiled. Next, she walked into the juvenile court office. "I need access to the state public case system." "For what matter?" I'm filing a motion for pretrial dismissal. Pro se representation? That's right. You'll need to request a hearing from Judge Rowan's clerk. She did. The following morning, Hamilton Prep issued a short statement. We are aware of recent developments surrounding a student incident. The school continues to cooperate with legal processes and will refrain from comment. They weren't cooperating. They were hiding. Later that day, a certified envelope appeared at the Bell apartment door. Inside was the school's first official letter. They denied wrongdoing, but offered a closed-door conference with a board liaison. Melanie didn't respond. Instead, she printed 5 more copies of her motion, now expanded to 8 pages. She included witness quotes from students, details of policy violations, and a reference to a prior case from 2012, Gordon versus Strathmore District, detainment without parent notification. Isaiah watched her print everything. Where did you learn all this? I never forgot it. I just never used it. Until now. That Friday, a voicemail came from a blocked number. Hello, Mrs. Bell. This is Deputy Counsel Tim Ellis from the district office. We've reviewed your materials. I'd like to speak with you before this escalates further. Melanie didn't call back. She wasn't finished. She filed another motion. This time, not just for dismissal, but for expungement. Isaiah wouldn't just be free. His name would be clean. That night, she added a final line to her case summary. You don't get to profile my son and walk away. April 19th, 8:12 a.m. Isaiah and Melanie sat in the cold hallway of Juvenile Courtroom 4B. Isaiah wore a black button-down and slacks. No hoodie. No sneakers. He looked like a student, not a suspect. Melanie's binder sat on her lap, thick with pages, tabs, and citations. She wasn't a licensed lawyer, but today she was more prepared than half the attorneys in the building. A bailiff opened the door. Bell case. You're up. They walked in. The prosecutor was already seated, a thin man in his 30s, briefcase closed, half interested. Judge Rowan looked up from her bench. Good morning. This is case #J for 92, Commonwealth versus Isaiah Bell. Representing the defense? Melanie stood. Pro se, Your Honor. Melanie Bell, mother and legal guardian. The prosecutor scoffed. Your Honor, I wasn't made aware this would be a self-represented hearing. And yet, here I am, Melanie replied, her voice calm. Proceed, said the judge. Melanie walked to the podium. Your Honor, I move for immediate dismissal of all charges on the grounds of wrongful detainment, lack of evidence, and denial of parental notification. I've submitted a supporting motion with documentation. She handed the bailiff a folder. Rowan flipped through the pages. Ms. Bell, are you a practicing attorney? No, ma'am. This is remarkably thorough. I take the law seriously. I assumed others would do the same. Rowan glanced at the prosecutor. Mr. Landon, your response? He stood reluctantly. The minor was identified by school officials as matching a theft suspect. The response was appropriate. The school followed standard procedure. Did you verify surveillance footage before pressing charges? The footage is still under review. Melanie stepped forward. Your Honor, the footage has been reviewed. It shows Isaiah walking into the hall at 8:02 a.m. The theft was reported to occur at 7:35 a.m. in another building, 2 floors away. Rowan's eyes narrowed. Melanie continued. No item was found in his possession. No witness testified. No written statement from a faculty member links Isaiah directly to the incident. But he was still detained, still entered into the juvenile system, still suspended. Silence. Then, I've also included copies of internal school emails suggesting bias and pressure to remain firm, regardless of truth. One email describes my son as these kids. Rowan set the file down. Mr. Landon, based on this, I see no grounds for proceeding, unless you have additional evidence. Landon shuffled his papers. I'd need more time to respond. You've had weeks. Melanie locked eyes with him. You came expecting no resistance. You were wrong. The judge leaned back. I'm setting a hearing for formal dismissal and expungement. May 2nd. Thank you, Your Honor, Melanie said. As she turned back to Isaiah, something passed between them. Not a smile, not relief, but a flicker of power. They hadn't won. But now, the system knew. She wasn't going away. For days after the courtroom hearing, Melanie received a letter from Hamilton Prep. It wasn't an apology. It was a warning. Subject, academic probation, Isaiah Bell. The letter claimed Isaiah had missed assignments, failed to participate, was disruptive to the educational environment. Melanie read it 3 times. They're retaliating, she muttered. Isaiah hadn't even been in class for over a week. She went to the school the next morning. The front desk no longer greeted her. They called security before she said a word. Vice Principal Chandler appeared in the hallway with 2 guards behind her. I'm here to talk about this letter, Melanie said, holding up the paper. Ms. Bell, we've received concerns from multiple staff members regarding your presence on campus. I'm a parent. You filed a legal complaint against the institution. We reserve the right to limit contact during an active case. Melanie stepped closer. So you're cutting me off, but still sending letters home blaming my son? This is an internal matter, Chandler said flatly. Melanie leaned in. Let me make this simple. Retaliating against a student during legal proceedings is not just unethical. It's actionable. I've already filed a copy of this letter to the State Education Board. I suggest you prepare your defense. Chandler blinked. Your son's academic record is under review. Melanie didn't flinch. And your school's accreditation may be next. That night, she received 3 texts from other black parents. They put my son on lunch detention today. No reason. My daughter said a teacher warned her to keep her head down. We need to talk. Melanie created a group chat. Bell Action Network. Parents of Hamilton. Within 24 hours, there were 9 members. By the end of the week, 23. One mother wrote, I didn't know we could push back. I thought we just had to take it. Melanie replied, not anymore. Meanwhile, Isaiah returned to school. The hallways felt tighter. Teachers watched him too closely, or not at all. In gym class, someone tripped him during drills. Another student whispered, snitch. At lunch, he sat alone. But he stayed. And when he got home that day, he handed his mother a note. I want to speak at the expungement hearing. I want to say what happened. Melanie hesitated. Are you sure? Yeah. I'm not afraid of them anymore. She nodded slowly. Her son wasn't broken. He was learning how to fight. And now, they were 2 voices. But not for long. May 2nd, 9 a.m. Juvenile Courtroom 4B was quiet. Until Isaiah Bell stood. Judge Rowan looked up. The court will now hear closing arguments in the matter of Commonwealth versus Isaiah Bell. Ms. Bell, are you prepared? Melanie nodded. Yes, Your Honor. But first, my son would like to speak. Rowan raised an eyebrow. You're aware this is unusual? He understands the risk. He wants to speak for himself. Rowan turned to Isaiah. Come forward, Mr. Bell. Isaiah stepped up. Black slacks. White shirt. No tie. He placed both hands on the podium. His voice steady. My name is Isaiah Bell. I'm 14 years old. I didn't steal anything. I didn't lie. I didn't run. I was walking to math class. That's it. He paused. They said I matched a description. But the description wasn't me. It was just black. Hoodie. Tall. That's not a match. That's a label. The courtroom was silent. When they grabbed me, I was scared. But I didn't scream. When they cuffed me, I didn't fight. When they called my mom hours later, I was already in a cell. He looked at the judge. I want this off my record. Not just because it's wrong, but because I didn't do anything. And if I don't say that here, they'll keep saying it for me. He stepped back. No tears. No shaking. Only silence. Melanie placed a hand on his shoulder. Judge Rowan turned to the prosecutor. Mr. Landon, final word? He stood slowly. Your Honor, the Commonwealth has no further argument. The evidence presented speaks for itself. He didn't even try. Rowan closed the file. I've reviewed all documentation, motions, and testimony. The absence of proof is clear. The presence of bias is disturbing. She looked at Isaiah. Mr. Bell, I hereby dismiss all charges and order the record of this case sealed and expunged. This matter is closed. The gavel dropped. Melanie exhaled for the first time in 2 months. As they stepped out of the courtroom, 3 people waited in the hallway. 2 mothers from the parent group, and 1 unfamiliar woman in a gray blazer. Mrs. Bell, I'm from the Office of Civil Rights. We'd like to discuss your filings and what comes next. Melanie glanced at Isaiah. He didn't look afraid. We're ready, she said. 3 weeks after the expungement, Hamilton Prep emailed Melanie. No subject line, just 1 sentence. Isaiah is welcome to return. No apology, no explanation, no accountability. Melanie didn't reply. She showed the message to Isaiah. You want to go back? He looked at the screen, then at his mother. I want to finish what I started, but on my terms. 2 days later, he walked back into the school. Same hallways, same faces, but now no shame. Students stared. Some whispered. Others nodded. No teacher spoke to him until third period. Mr. Kent, his robotics advisor, stopped him outside class. You back for good? I never should have left. Kent nodded once. That afternoon, Isaiah sat with 3 other students during lunch. Not because they invited him, because he chose to sit. Across the city, Melanie was in a conference room at the Office of Civil Rights. A woman in glasses flipped through her documentation. You wrote and filed all of this yourself? Every word, Melanie said. Have you considered applying for certification? As what? The woman smiled. Legal advocate. We could sponsor you, train you, put your voice to use. Melanie hesitated, then said, yes. She didn't need permission. She only needed opportunity. 2 months later, a notice arrived at the school district office. Inquiry initiated into improper detainment and racial profiling of a minor, Bell versus Fairfax Education District. It was signed by the U.S. Department of Education, and it had Melanie Bell's name under, reporting advocate. Isaiah never asked what happened to the original accuser. Melanie never asked who deleted the footage. It didn't matter. The point wasn't punishment. It was precedent, and they had set one. Isaiah graduated Hamilton Prep 3 years later. Top 10%. No marks. No stigma. He gave one line in his speech. My mom taught me the most powerful thing in a broken system is a voice that doesn't ask for permission. No one cheered. They stood. Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories that inspire action and hope.